What is going on, beautiful people? Ah, the Infinity. A beloved weapon, a hated weapon, a mid weapon? People have strong feelings about a lot of things in this series, but the Infinity seems to be one of the most polarizing weapons ever. Historically considered a personal favorite to many, and even one of the best weapons in Borderlands 2 by some, the Infinity has always been a weapon that I personally despise for reasons I will discuss in a minute. In this video, I want to talk about people's perceptions of the weapon, why it's so polarizing, and how it actually performs in practice. Just real quick, I want to cover the basics. The Infinity is a Legendary Vladof Pistol that drops from Doc Mercy. Well, there was a point in time early on where he was bugged and didn't drop it in true Vault Hunter mode. There was that whole controversy where Yodi Slaya apparently faked his Infinity drop, and Man of Low Moral Fiber made a video basically mocking him. But we don't have to get into all that right now. Oh, by the way, if this is your first time here, no, I am not Man of Low Moral Fiber. I am not a white supremacist like him. But speaking of all that, you guys know how Morning Afterkill made that video about the fiber controversy? Apparently the dude in the thumbnail isn't even fiber. Wow, Mac, nice journalistic integrity. I asked Dirchlands which one was actually fiber and he didn't respond, so I don't know. You guys let me know if you know what fiber actually looks like. Anyway, the Infinity's drop source bug was fixed, and now it can always be obtained from Doc Mercy. Actually, it has like 6 different drop sources at this point, not even joking. So what is special about the Infinity? Well, the non-unique version is the Anarchist, one of the best weapons in the game. Being a Vladof pistol with a Vladof barrel, the Anarchist benefits from the matching barrel bonus, which is unique. In this case, it gets +6 magazine size and times 1.1 weapon damage. As you might have guessed, the Anarchist is one of my favorite weapons. A Garnet Anarchist is just a gemstone Anarchist, which can be obtained by feeding Butt Stallion Iridium after completing Dragon Keep. The gemstone skin increases critical damage by 7.5% and gives you a 15% chance to reflect bullets while holding it, which reduces the damage you take by 80%. So the Garnet Anarchist is an exceptional weapon. In fact, some players such as myself even prefer the Garnet Anarchist, or even a regular Anarchist, over the Infinity. The Infinity is very disappointing to me because the Anarchist is one of my favorite weapons, and then the special ability of the legendary version is quite boring. First of all, you get infinite ammo. Cool utility for sure, but there actually are not very many scenarios in this game where you run out of ammo and can't get more back. But sure, there are a few, so it's something. Although you do actually have to have at least 1 pistol round remaining to use the Infinity. On top of that, the Infinity shoots in a sideways 8 pattern. There is no other name for this, by the way, it's just called a sideways 8. This is actually really annoying because it means you pretty much have to use the Infinity at point blank range to consistently crit enemies with it. So you have the super cool Anarchist, and then the legendary version just has bad accuracy and infinite ammo, which is rarely actually useful. The Stinger and the Stalker don't fare much better either. I mean, they both have great damage, but aren't very interesting, just having bouncing bullets. I'm not sure exactly why the Infinity gained a reputation for being so good early on in the community, especially with Zer0, but I do have a theory. Before we get into that, yes, there are a couple of obvious synergies Zer0 has with the Infinity. Since the Infinity has a mag size of 1 and consumes no ammo, it will always benefit from 1 shot, 1 kill. Then precision can help tighten the spread a bit so you don't miss as many shots. Zer0 with a legendary sniper comm and an Infinity is indeed quite strong. In fact, I covered this build on the first video on this channel if you want to check that out. And it's understandable that people would find this interaction fun. Finding these types of synergies is satisfying. But somewhere along the way, the Infinity earned a reputation for being one of Zer0's best options, and this is definitely not true. Infinity Zer0 is significantly outpaced by Sniper Zer0 and Melee Zer0, whether mobbing or bossing. However, Infinity Zer0 does have one major advantage over those playstyles, and I think this is probably the biggest factor that contributed to the hype. While Sniper Zer0 and Melee Zer0 are incredibly strong, they also have much higher skill floors. Low skill players will just never be able to pick up these playstyles if they aren't willing to invest the time to learn, and most of the player base doesn't seem like they are willing. In fact, a lot of people will routinely suggest that Zer0 is too fragile to even be played past normal mode. This is of course ridiculous, but nonetheless I have seen this sentiment dozens of times in this community. Sniper Zer0 requires good aim, intelligent positioning, and the ability to manage your ammo. Melee Zer0 is probably even harder to master, requiring exceptional positioning, combat awareness, speed, and the ability to either strip your own shield or play with a depleted shield. While Infinity Zer0 is not as strong as either playstyle, it is accessible. Anyone can pick up an Infinity, spec into one shot, one kill, and run around easily killing mobs. They don't have to worry about positioning, timing, reloading, or even aiming really, as the Infinity just sprays so many rounds in every direction, things will die if you just don't stop shooting. Infinity Zer0 is also much easier to pick up on the theory side. Sniper and Melee Zer0 both require a pretty good understanding of the character to do well. You need to know which class mods, weapons, shields, skills, etc. are best for the situation you're in. Some enemies require more unique approaches. Sometimes the gear you need is not easily accessible. None of this is really an issue with the Infinity. It's easy to get and easy to use, even if it is less effective. The Infinity basically dumbs Zer0 down so that anyone can play him. And this is another big reason I hate the weapon. Not because I'm an elitist, not because I think it's bad that there's an easier way to play Zer0. Simply because Zer0 is my favorite character in all of gaming. He is challenging to pick up, but super rewarding to master. And the Infinity strips away the precision and skill associated with playing him, essentially just spraying bullets in a circle until something dies, making him far less enjoyable to me personally. Another reason Zer0 is super satisfying is because of his ability to quickly reload and get massive damage off with killer and one shot, one kill. Fast hands doesn't hurt either. It's super fun to melt an enemy with a headshot or shotgun blast, reload almost immediately, and get massive damage off with his skills. I think players who pick up Zer0 but find him too challenging to play and resort to this playstyle are doing themselves a huge disservice. I don't have hard numbers on this, but Zer0 seems to be one of the least played, worst understood characters in Borderlands 2. People might be surprised how much they enjoy Sniper or Melee Zer0 if they invested the time to learn. I certainly was. I put off learning Melee Zer0 for a long time because I just didn't think I would enjoy it. But once I learned the playstyle, it became easily my favorite. Or at least my slightly modified melee playstyle that incorporates more sniping. You can check my Blooming Blades Melee Zer0 build guide out in the description. So those are some of the reasons I'm personally not a huge fan of the Infinity. I guess I don't actually hate the weapon. It can be sort of fun on the right build as a dedicated close range option, and it's not like everyone loves the Infinity. I did say it was polarizing, and I've seen a lot of people also express dislike of the Infinity, believing it is overhyped, especially as the community has improved its understanding of the game over the years. Well, part of it anyway. A lot of people do agree with me that the Infinity is an overhyped, almost noob trap type of weapon. And I do want to express again, Infinity Zer0 is very strong, it's just not as strong as his meta sniper or melee playstyles. It has some annoying drawbacks like bad accuracy. I do think it's cool that the Infinity allows Zer0 to feel a bit more accessible to some players, and I hope those players will eventually feel comfortable branching out into his other playstyles. If that's you, you've come to the right place. I have 10 world records with Zer0, and many builds and guides you might be interested in, including melee, sniper, gun, and even dedicated pistol and shotgun build videos. I think the early hype of the Infinity probably contributes to the portion of people who still consider it to be one of the best Zer0 options to this day, and by extension, one of the best weapons in the game. Speaking of non-Zer0 characters, how does the Infinity fare on them? Well, I would say it's definitely the best on Zer0. If you can't support it with one shot, one kill and precision, I can't think of many reasons you would want to use the Infinity on other characters, at least if you're going for efficiency. I can't think of any similar niches the Infinity has on other characters like it does with Zer0. I suppose it would still be an easy to pick up and use weapon on other characters, just with less damage and accuracy. But let me know how you feel about the Infinity on non-Zer0 characters. I would estimate that it is above average, although not especially exceptional, and probably worse than an Anarchist if not being largely carried by Zer0's skills. So those are my thoughts on the Infinity. I do think historically it was very overrated. That trend has seemed to reverse a bit in the last few years. To be clear, there's nothing wrong with liking the Infinity or disliking conventional Zer0 gameplay or anything like that. Finding unique synergies between weapons and skills can be fun, so I don't blame anyone for liking the Infinity a lot. These reasons are just my personal ones for not liking the weapon as much. I just feel it's a bit disappointing that the non-unique version is arguably better, and that the unique versions just aren't very interesting or not that much more effective. It's a shame that none of the unique Anarchists were particularly interesting at least. But I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider liking, commenting, or subscribing. And if not, well, you're already goated for making it this far. and do let me know what you think of the Infinity, or what you think is the most overrated weapon. Last but not least, an extra special thank you to all of my wonderful members. You guys rock. Most importantly, stay safe and be here next time.